A second potential bias is confounding bias. That is, an experiment could have a lurking or confounding variable, meaning you cannot rule out the possibility that the observed effect is due to some other variable other than the factor being studied. An example of this is when you give fertilizer to some plants and no fertilizer to others, but the no fertilizer plant was also placed in a location that doesn't receive direct sunlight. So you don't really know if the plants that received fertilizer grew taller because of the sunlight or because of the fertilizer. So make sure you design experiments to eliminate the effect of confounding variables by controlling all the factors you can and then randomizing your assignment. Another bias, overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is when you do a study in one group and then try to say that it happens to all groups. So recall that generalization or population inference can only be claimed if the sample uses random selection over the entire population. Or the population is just whatever you sampled from. An example is doing cancer treatments on rats. Just because the treatment works on rats does not mean it will work on humans. Another example is that until recently, most FDA medication testing had been done on white males of a particular age. There's no way to know how the medication affects other genders, ethnic groups, age groups, and races. The new FDA guidelines stresses using individuals from different groups. In the article titled "Men Are More Satisfied by Bromances Than Their Romantic Relationships," study says, by Time in 2017 describes a study that found young men get more emotional satisfaction out of bromances, as close heterosexual friendships with other males, than they do out of romantic relationships with women. The authors cautioned that the shift could lead to weaker bonds among dating or married couples, or even reduce the likelihood of men and women pairing up at all. So pretty dire consequences. The problem with this study, the authors interviewed only 30 second-year students at the University of Winchester in the United Kingdom. So the limitations of the study are pretty apparent. Only a small number of men were interviewed. They were all from the same university and from sports departments. Most were middle class, and all but one was white. Also, they were interviewed by a man, the same person each time. So the study by itself cannot tell us anything about how many men have bromances, or how widespread the greater valuing of bromances over romances might be. Another potential bias, cause and effect. Cause and effect is where people decide that one variable causes the other just because the variables happen to be related or correlated. So recall, causal inference can only be inferred if an experiment uses random assignment between treatment and control groups. Unless the study was done as an experiment where a variable was controlled, you cannot say that one variable caused the other. Most likely there is another variable that caused both. As an example, there is a relationship between the number of drownings at the beach and ice cream sales. This does not mean that ice cream sales increasing causes people to drown. Most likely the cause for both increasing is the heat of the summer.